Tonight on EIV News at 9, a man arrested on federal charges for a bomb threat.
And a Massachusetts teacher fired for swearing. We'll have those stories and more coming up. Good evening and welcome to EIV News at 9. I'm Ellie Romano.
And I'm Sean Stackhouse. We begin with tonight's top stories. Anthony Ray of Stoughton was arrested on federal charges after allegedly sending multiple bomb threats to schools in 4 different states over the past year. Ray has been previously charged in Dedham District Court for emailing threats in October of 2014 to multiple elementary schools and the school he currently attended. Federal charges come after Ray violated the conditions of his release and sent yet another bomb threat email, this one to North Carolina State University. Ray appeared in court Wednesday afternoon to face charges.
A vigil was held on Tuesday for 2 Massachusetts sailors that were lost in Hurricane Joaquin. Keith Griffin of Winthrop and Jeffrey Mathias of Kingston were both graduates of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy. Their ship, El Faro, lost power between Jacksonville and Puerto Rico. El Faro is believed to have sunk in 15,000 feet of water after reporting its location last Thursday. The Coast Guard is still searching for any sign of the ship or its crew.
The jury selection process has begun in the trial of a Danvers teen accused of raping and killing his math teacher. Philip Chisholm was 14 at the time when he was charged with the crimes 2 years ago, but he will now be tried as an adult. The body of the teacher, 24-year-old Colleen Ritzer, was found in the woods near Danvers High School. Chisholm's lawyers plan to cite the boy's mental health in their defense, potentially claiming insanity. 104 people are being interviewed as potential jurors.
Brookline students walked out of their classes Tuesday in protest of the termination of teacher Larry Chen. Chen was fired from the Michael Driscoll School after another teacher overheard him swear while talking to 2 students. Students marched over a mile in protest of Chen's termination. The district says that they have no comment on the matter.
Evan J. Gardner was arraigned on Tuesday for the murder of Richard M. Tangerlini Jr. The interaction between the two was a planned drug deal in which Gardner intended to rob Tangerlini as well as Matthew Orenberger. Tangerlini was pronounced dead after undergoing surgery at Brockton Hospital and was also charged with illegal possession of a firearm and robbery and is now being held without bail. He is scheduled to appear in court November 4th.
A toddler has passed away after contracting E. coli at the Oxford County Fair in Maine. Sources say that the boy most likely caught hemolytic uremic syndrome after coming into contact with E. coli at a petting zoo, and another toddler has reportedly developed the syndrome as well after visiting the same petting zoo. A spokesperson for the traveling fair said that the death of the toddler was a tragedy and that they are not aware of any other cases at this time.
A senior football player of the Winthrop High School team was suspended for taking pictures of a fellow team player in the nude. Winthrop High School is taking the situation seriously, forfeiting their game against Gloucester this Friday. No charges have been filed yet, but authorities have begun investigating with at least 10 other students that may be involved in the incident.
2 new bills in Massachusetts could aid in the fight against discrimination of transgender individuals here in the Bay State. The legislation would outlaw any discrimination against transgender men and women from using the respective genders' restrooms and changing rooms. This bill would expand transgender individuals' protection under a 2011 bill that barred discrimination in employment and housing. 17 other states have passed similar bills, and State Representative Joe Kennedy says Massachusetts' name's absence from the list does not go unnoticed.
A 4-vehicle crash in Falmouth left 8 injured Tuesday afternoon. The incident, which occurred on Woods Hill Road, was declared a mass casualty incident, calling in assistance from the Bourne Fire Rescue. No life-threatening injuries were sustained in the crash, but 7 of the 8 victims were hospitalized with minor injuries. Authorities are still investigating the cause.
Faulty brakes in an unmanned truck resulted in a 3-car pileup this past Wednesday. A flatbed truck left on Dorchester's steep Fendale Avenue crashed into 2 parked cars and a utility pole after its brakes gave way. The driver of the truck will likely not face charges as he was not with the vehicle at the time of the incident. Authorities have expressed their relief that the vehicle veered towards the parking lot rather than nearby traffic.
A New Hampshire power plant caught ablaze after a generator overheated and exploded, sparking an oil fire that occurred on Pine Tree Power in Bethlehem, New Hampshire, Tuesday morning. It expanded through the upstairs floors of the 4-story, 15-megawatt power plant. According to the Bethlehem fire chief, the fire was extinguished within 2 hours. No one was harmed in the fire.
United Airlines is under fire this week following its poor accommodations for a breastfeeding mother. Liz Cooper of Newton, Massachusetts reports that the airline insisted she pump breast milk for her 4-month-old infant in an area intended as a bathroom for service dogs. Repulsed by the less than sanitary conditions, Cooper opted to use the terminal instead. Her frustrated tweets have prompted a public apology and the company's promise that private areas will be available in 2016.
Well, the race for the presidency is heating up. For more on who's making strides we go to our political correspondent, Emily Grossberg.
Thanks, Sean. Hillary Rodham Clinton has officially come out against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The Pacific Rim trade deal backed by President Barack Obama cuts trade barriers and protects labor and environmental standards. However, Clinton says the deal does not meet the bar for creating jobs or helping national security. Even though she laid the groundwork for the deal when she was Obama's Secretary of State, this may be another part of Clinton's attempt to win over her party, as the deal is primarily opposed by liberal Democrats and labor unions. And some Democrats are desperate for another presidential hopeful to enter the 2016 race. A draft Biden group trying to persuade the current Vice President Joe Biden to run for president launched its first TV ad yesterday. The emotional ad is nearly 2 minutes and tells the story of Biden's redemption from a 1972 car accident that killed his first wife and young daughter. His son Beau died last May. Latest polls show Biden may have a chance if he enters the race. While Clinton is beating him in the numbers in the polls, his favorability is higher, and he would beat leading Republicans in a head-to-head match. And former NSA contractor Edward Snowden says he's offered many times to go to prison in the U.S., but still waiting on a response. Snowden is currently in exile in Russia for leaking documents about a top-secret mass surveillance program. He said that he is willing to reach a plea deal with the United States. U.S. government authorities say they've always been open to a plea deal, but finding a common ground is challenging. The Department of Justice has said no matter what, Snowden will face criminal prosecution if he returns to the United States. And while we're still over a year away from the 2016 presidential election, that hasn't stopped some candidates from planning about their big day in office. A recent interview with the Boston Herald, GOP presidential candidate Carly Fiorina said she would consider Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker for a cabinet spot. While she said it is a little premature to talk about the position, she's making a long list of people who challenge the status quo, a list that also includes former New Hampshire Senator Scott Brown. Baker's office said he is solely focused on the people of Massachusetts right now, but who knows, an office on Capitol Hill instead of Beacon Hill could be a nice change of pace. And that's your politics update. Allie and Sean, back to you.
Emily, with the first primary coming closer, who has been making the most moves to come into the public eye?
Well, as I said earlier, unofficially, Vice President Joe Biden may be making a move for the 2016 presidential race, but again, nothing has been confirmed. He is doing almost as well as Bernie Sanders in the poll, not quite up to Hillary Clinton levels yet, but he is beating her in favorability. A lot of people are really pushing for him to run. They trust him, they believe in him, but the Bidens are still mourning the loss of their son, Beau, who only died just in May. And some people see that they're taking this time as a reflective period, and that 2016 is just too soon, even though the vice president is in his 70s. But some people are also saying that Biden should go into this race because he can beat the GOP candidates, and because this can be a really big jumpstart that he needs to get back into the political community and move on from his son's death.
Well, thank you for the update, Emily. Coming up on EIV News at 9, we'll have the updates on an Amtrak derailment.
And Russia has started attacking ISIS by sea. Camilla Zagarzazu will have the details when we come back. Welcome back to EIV News at 9. An Amtrak train derailed in Vermont on Monday. The train, known as the Vermonter, struck several boulders that had fallen onto the tracks. Vermont Governor Peter Schulman called this a freak accident. Luckily, only 7 passengers were injured, and all 7 have since been released from the hospital. The Vermonter usually runs daily from St. Albans in northern Vermont to Washington, D.C. Officials said that they are aiming to get the train up and running in a matter of days, not weeks.
A commercial plane headed for Boston was diverted Monday morning after its pilot died mid-flight. 57-year-old Captain Michael Johnston became ill while piloting an American Airlines flight from Phoenix to Boston on Monday. The co-pilot landed the plane safely in Syracuse, New York, with all 147 passengers and 5 crew members unharmed. A New York coroner says that Johnston died from natural diseases, and specific information regarding his death is not being released. The flight's passengers arrived safely in Boston 5 hours after their scheduled landing.
A 10-inch water main broke in Manchester, New Hampshire Wednesday morning. The break sent water down Brown Street at the intersection of South Beach Street, causing flooding, road closures, and a sinkhole in Manchester. The original break damaged a 16-inch water main under Brown Street, causing more water to cascade down the streets. Detours were set up in the area, but travel will take longer than usual. There is no answer at this time as to what caused the break.
Aaron Hernandez was back in court Tuesday. Hernandez's lawyers are requesting a warrant used to seize a Toyota 4Runner be discredited. Police say Hernandez was driving with Carlos Ortiz as a passenger in the car when he fatally shot 2 men in 2012. Hernandez's lawyers claim that the police in Bristol, Connecticut omitted Ortiz's lie detector test results when they applied for the warrant that would allow them to seize the vehicle. Jury selection in the trial is set to begin December 1st.
A New Hampshire landlord and city council candidate is facing animal cruelty charges. Keene police say Toby Tousley turned himself in after allegedly kicking his neighbor's dog to death. Witnesses claim Tousley was working in the yard of a tenant home he owns when the partially old and deaf and blind dog named Teddy wandered onto his property. Tenants of the home say Tousley became angry that the dog was on his property and kicked the dog in the chest, killing the longtime pet of owner Bill and Cheryl LaPlante. This was usually will be arraigned on animal cruelty charges on November 10th, but does not believe it will affect his campaign or seat on the city council.
A Medway man is being held without bail today. Alexander Lesperance, a United States Navy veteran, is facing 50 weapons-related charges after a family member requested police search his home in mid-September. Police say they found a wide range of weapons in Lesperance's home, including rifles, shotguns, pistols, a smoke bomb, and several homemade explosives. According to Lesperance's attorney, the guns were purchased legally. Prosecutors say Lesperance fought with police during the search. This case comes amidst rising concerns of gun violence following a surge of mass shootings around the nation.
An effort is being made overseas to attempt to stop smuggling in the Mediterranean. Our international correspondent, Camilla Zagrazazu, has more.
After months spent gathering intelligence about smuggling networks across the Mediterranean, an EU military operation will start stopping and seizing the boats attempting the journey. EU members announced plans for an assertive approach earlier this year, amid a public outcry after a string of vessels carrying migrants to Europe from North Africa capsized, killing hundreds. Civil rights groups have expressed skepticism over whether the new phase of the naval operation will do much good, especially for the desperate people trying to reach European shores. Russia launched a naval bombardment of ISIS targets in Syria, ramping up. It fired 26 missiles into Syria, hitting 11 targets. Russia and Syria launched coordinated attacks on Islamist factions in provinces in western Syria. The strikes were launched from the Caspian Sea using precise long-range missiles that flew 930 miles to their targets. As its ships and warplanes conducted fresh strikes, Russia said it was willing to cooperate with the U.S. in carrying out attacks. U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter responded by saying the campaign of airstrikes in Syria was a fundamental mistake and the U.S. is not ready to cooperate with Russia's operations. French President Francois Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel urged European lawmakers to pull together in order to create a stronger Europe to cope with the influx of migrants that is dangerously straining the Union. The separate addresses emphasized the risks troubling the EU's 28 nations, including rising nationalism and a populist fervor. The bitter retort after the two leaders' speeches stressed the growing nationalist sentiment within the European Union, fed by the arrival of about 500,000 immigrants. The conservative German chancellor and the socialist French president symbolize the kind of Europe they want to see thrive, in which differences are set aside for the common good. Following a week of violent shootings and stabbings in Jerusalem, two recent attacks fueled fears that the latest surge of unrest may just be the beginning. In wake of these attacks, the prime minister canceled a scheduled trip to Germany. He advised citizens to be on maximum alert as the Israeli police beef up security around the country. Protests throughout the West Bank and Jerusalem erupted after both the Israeli and Palestinian death tolls significantly increased. This fight is being fueled by ongoing confrontations around Jerusalem's mosque, Islam's third holiest shrine that Jews claim as the site of 2 ancient temples. That's your international news. Ellie and Sean, back to you.
Now, Camilla, have there been any measures taken to ease tensions in Israel?
Unfortunately not. The recent attacks have only been striving, especially since protesters are now turning against the police forces.
Thank you for the update, Camilla. We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us.
Welcome back to EIV News at 9. A vehicle crashed and rolled over on Interstate 495 in Milford Wednesday morning. The crash slowed traffic to a halt during rush hour as responders worked to free the people trapped inside the vehicle. Police say the driver was under the influence of narcotics. The driver, Danica Lee Chapman, a resident of Sanford, Maine, was charged with operating a vehicle under the influence. In addition, Chapman is being charged with possession of ketamine, a powerful drug that is often used to tranquilize animals. Chapman and 2 passengers in the vehicle sustained only minor injuries.
Dunkin Donuts is said to be closing an estimated 100 locations inside of Speedway gas stations over the next 2 years. The company has been facing a large amount of hardships after its shares fell 10% from the previous quarter. Sales are also down for the company, which is reporting an expected growth of 1.1% in the third quarter. This estimation is well below the 2.1% growth of last quarter.
A group of protesters gathered outside the Museum of Fine Arts Monday to protest the museum's collection of Renoir paintings. Protesters want Renoir's work to be replaced with art that they think is better. Max Geller, the event organizer, calls Renoir's work literally awful. He also led the group in chanting, "Other art is worth your while. Renoir's paintings are a steaming pile." The Museum of Fine Arts has yet to comment on the protests.
The MBTA's commuter rail schedule is becoming more effective. In May of 2016, nonstop train service between Worcester's Union Station and Boston's Back Bay Station will connect passengers in under an hour. Schedule modifications will also include 2 new Zone Express trains in both directions daily, as well as 3 additional trains traveling from South Station to Framingham. The new schedules will be published in full this November.
Vermont driver is dead after crashing into a moose on Tuesday. Police say that the vehicle struck an 800-pound moose and then crashed into a telephone pole in front of Smiley Elementary School in Bolton, Vermont. The driver was identified as 22-year-old Brandon Friedman, who died at the scene. The passenger, Courtney Cota, was taken to the University of Vermont Medical Center and is in stable condition. Officials say alcohol was not involved in the crash.
We may be seeing a change in the way that we fly on airplanes. Our business correspondent, Jack Schwartz, has the details. Jack?
Doesn't look like flying is about to get any more comfortable anytime soon. Airbus, one of the top aircraft manufacturers, recently filed a patent for a new seating design that stacks passengers on top of one another. The new design would require passengers to climb a ladder to get in and out of their seats, and concerns have been raised that the passengers below may need to be wary of falling objects from the seats of those above them. At the moment, the design is nothing more than a newly filed patent, and Airbus has no plans to manufacture such a plane anytime soon. At a time when the nation's outstanding college loan debt is equal to $1.2 trillion, Americans are looking for any way to relieve the stress associated with such debt. Worried about the effect student debt may have on the economy in the coming years, government agencies will allow students to fill out federal financial aid forms earlier, allowing them to make more informed decisions when accepting a college's offer of admission. The U.S. Department of Education will also be launching a new program called College Scorecard to compare the overall cost of schools and how much money graduates from those schools make 10 years after graduation to help students achieve a better understanding of the financial situations they may be entering into. And many Americans have been receiving new credit cards from their banks in the mail this month with a chip for more secure payments. Because it is more difficult for thieves to steal information from the new chips than from the magnetic strips used previously, consulting company Javelin Strategy and Research estimates online financial fraud will double to $19 billion by the year 2018. Countries who switched to chip-based cards years ago, such as Britain, have seen online fraud rise by 55% over a similar 3-year time period. And Jonathan Eller, a single father in Texas, is caught in a legal dispute over his use of the word Mormon with the Church of the Latter-day Saints. Eller says that he tried several Mormon-themed dating websites, but found it hard to find the right match as the sites did not stay true to Mormon values. Eller founded his own company, Mormon Match, by launching dateamormon.com. When Eller tried to file a trademark for his site's logo, the church's intellectual property arm, Intellectual Reserve Incorporated, argued the term Mormon was a trademark and tried to get the site shut down. The church argues that a for-profit business trying to capitalize on the church's name with no official affiliation with the church is deceptive to consumers. Trademark attorney Leanne Lindquist, who is not involved in the dispute, says that unlike the Catholic and Jewish churches who have been around for a long time, the Mormon Church has modern origins and therefore their claims may hold some ground.
Now, Jack, you talked earlier about financial help for college students. Is that something that current college students will be able to benefit from as well?
Yeah, Sean. Actually, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is going to be launching a new tool on their website called the Borrower Repayment Tool. This will allow students and recent college graduates to go online and look at new options for financing out their loans. Students may be able to switch to income-based payment options, and if a student has no income for the month, they may be able to pay only $0 and still have it count as an on-time payment.
All right, well, thank you for the updates, Jack. Well, Ellie, playoff baseball is upon us. Katie Zeff is here to give us the full recap of what went down in the wild card playoff.
Thanks, Sean. In a surprising turn of events, the Houston Astros beat the New York Yankees in the AL wildcard game 3-0 on Tuesday. Dallas Keuchel was the hero of the night, throwing 6 shutout innings. The team was aggressive from the start, with Rasmus and Gomez both hitting 1 deep by the end of the 4th inning. They will advance to face the top-seeded Kansas City Royals in the AL Division Series tonight. Former Patriots wide receiver Dante Stallworth made headlines this week, as he claimed Tom Brady used to pay practice squad players if they picked him off during practice. This statement came amid controversy with Miami Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill, who allegedly taunted practice squad players about receiving a higher paycheck than them when they intercepted his passes during practice. Stallworth would not say how much Brady paid his players, but that it was used as a form of encouragement. Brady has yet to comment. LSU will not be going to South Carolina after all. South Carolina announced Wednesday that the football game will be held in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because of flooding in the area. The school had to cancel classes for the week due to the damage done by storms over the weekend. All proceeds from the game, which is projected to be one of the highest earning of the season, will go to South Carolina for relief efforts. There was yet another controversial call in the NFL Monday night. The Detroit Lions were about to score a touchdown to take the lead with just under 2 minutes left in the game when Calvin Johnson's fumble was illegally batted out of the end zone by Seahawks linebacker KJ Wright. The vice president of officiating acknowledged the bad call. However, no actions have been taken against the players or the official. Lions head coach Jim Caldwell refused to complain about the mistake, saying the team was not going to cry about it. That's it for sports. Back to you guys at the desk.
Katie, it seems like missed calls are becoming more of an issue in the NFL. Do you think it's time the league makes strides to avoid them?
Absolutely. I think that this has been going on for way too long. There have been many issues, including last season's Monday night game with the Seahawks, when the famous Fail Mary happened, and that again resulted in a Seahawks win when there should have been a penalty. This really needs to be changed, and NFL officials should not be concluding the outcome of the game.
All right, thanks, Katie. We're going to take one more quick commercial break.
But stay tuned. Weather reporter Carly Wickham will be with us to tell you if it's time to break out that winter coat or the umbrella. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're now joined by our weather correspondent, Carly Wickham. Carly, do you have any good news for us?
Well, we finally saw some sunny skies today after almost a full week of rain, and it seems as though we can look forward to more mild weather in the upcoming week. Today, we reached a high of 60 degrees with just a slight breeze, and we saw beautifully clear skies all day. Perfect weather to grab a cider and some donuts and lounge in the Boston Common. We will continue to see that tonight as the temperature drops to a slightly chilly 49 degrees. Friday will be a comfortable 70 degrees, but we will be seeing some afternoon showers starting around 5 p.m. and continuing into the evening. 60% chance of rain that night with a low of 45 degrees. For those of you sticking around for Columbus Day weekend, we're looking at pretty pleasant skies with a high of 65 on Saturday and 70 degrees on Sunday with nothing but sunshine. Heading into the 5-day, Monday's looking beautiful and sunny with a high of 70 degrees. We shouldn't be seeing clouds in the sky until later that night when the lows head down into the mid-50s. But when classes start again on Tuesday, we are expecting a pretty cloudy day with scattered showers all day. The temperature will start at a chilly 55 degrees, but should be climbing for most of the day until we reach a high of around 68 degrees. Wednesday should be looking gorgeous with a high of 63 degrees and nothing but sunshine. Thursday, we will continue to see that same sunshine, but on Friday, we're going to have some clouds again with a 30% chance of rain. So unfortunately, I wouldn't put those umbrellas away just yet. That's all for weather this week. I'm Carly Wickham.
Thanks, Carly. That's all we have for you tonight.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.